Assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Nurr Qistina binti Muhammad Zamuri and I will be presenting my report for proofreading and editing to case study 1. So let's begin. First, I will be showing the list of error categories that I found in my case study. The first one is context, which is mostly the format. Second one is content with importing more information, formatting list, responsibility gap, and language usage. The third one would be informal or conversational phrases, wordiness, parallel structure, passive and unclear responsibility. And lastly would be mechanics of writing with all of the lists over here. Disclaimer, I won't be fixing any of this because I literally have to rewrite everything. So yeah, let's move on with introduction. For my case study, I did a proofreading for Colorado State University's President Sustainability Commission meeting minutes. This over here is the small version of it. I'm sorry, but you can visibly see all the highlighting, lots of highlight actually, and if we could zoom, there will be a lot of colored text that basically saying the mechanics of writing's errors. A lot of error actually, and it's 4 pages, but it actually lots of information. Everyone can see by how small the texts are. There's the context. The context, as I mentioned earlier, is the format that have many problems. The font types are too small, not appropriate for the document type, and it makes it hard to read if you actually print it. Yeah. And then there's the unjustified documents text alignment that's basically not professional at all. And the lack of clear and bolded headers. So when I read the meeting minutes, it's actually very hard to see our scheme around. And the paragraph also very much tiny spacing actually. So it's hard for me to sometimes try to find the key parts. For tone and formality, it actually have lots of conversational phrases, like something that you would say to your friends, which is supposedly not appropriate for this kind of document, you see. For the content over here, we have that the information being too wordy, like you basically copy paste it from the recording or something. And then there's the formatting list. Too many items being presented in one paragraph. It's basically very dense when I read it. And then there's the responsibility gap, like this is a meeting minutes, is supposed to be very detailed on that part, like who's going to be responsible for the next thing, for that thing. Yeah, it's not very good at that part. And the language usage, like I mentioned earlier, there's lots of unnecessary words that feels like going to make you more errors. And there's also lack of clarity, like I also don't understand despite learning about this language since I was 7. So we move on to the language errors. The first category being informal or conversational phrase. I found 9 of them in the meeting minutes, which unfortunately I cannot fix because I have to rewrite everything. But basically, as you can see, is not very much professional or formal in this case. Maybe because the members of the commission are friends, but you understand. Moving on to the second category, we got wordiness. I found 7 of them. It's actually very long, and I would say that they have some repetitive words in the line and actually could be shortened, but unfortunately the writer seems to like to make it very long for some reason. Not sure why. Next would be the parallel structure. It's actually could be another way to phrase this. It's not very appropriate. So I would say that this is the only things that I found fortunately, which could be changed but won't be really necessary for me to do so because I really don't use the fixed version for my rewrite version, so unfortunately will be left as it is. Now, lastly, for the language category, we found the passive and unclear responsibility. I found 6 of them, and it's very concerning because how would they know who's going to be the responsible one, right? It's like, over the first one, there's task gap analysis. This meant to provide a jumping off point like forward. And so yeah, it's like they're saying the very vague line for who's responsible for this and that. So for me, I think they're going to have a problem in the future if they keep doing this, you know. Now, lastly, for the language category, we found the passive and unclear responsibility. I found 6 of them, and it's very concerning because how would they know who's going to be the responsible one, right? It's like, over the first one, there's task gap analysis. This meant to provide a jumping off point like forward. And so yeah, it's like they're saying the very vague line for who's responsible for this and that. So for me, I think they're going to have a problem in the future if they keep doing this, you know. So to put into the conclusion for my case study is the fact that the analyzed document actually managed to contain the necessary information for meeting minutes, but there's also even more unnecessary stuff, unfortunately, on that part. They also lack proper structure, clarity, and mechanical accuracy, which makes it hard to read. Personally, I say that it's very hard for me to also read because I cannot understand it at first glance, so I have to read it multiple times to understand what's the context of it. And as I mentioned a lot, there are so many unnecessary words and personal commentary being added by the writer, basically not professional for meeting minutes. And it's the fact that proofreading and editing are important to create a clear and credible meeting minutes, especially for this one. They may be going to be reviewed in the future because they need to use meeting minutes to see what's going on for the last meeting. And for me personally, I think that some people shouldn't write meeting minutes. Like, I don't know. Maybe they should assign it for another person to do it. So that's all from me, and that's my case study. Thank you for watching, and be patient with people that will do the same thing to me when I did this case study. Unfortunately, there will be people like this. Alright.